The Chinese countryside. It's a place I've been returning to off and on for the better part of 2 decades. It's a place not built with beauty in mind, instead serving the brutally practical necessities of utilizing every square meter of arable land. But there is beauty here, if you're willing to look. It's not the sort of place you're going to find in a travel brochure, but the tourist can have the wall. I've done that. This is my little piece of China. Before we go exploring the fields and then move on to some of the culinary and cultural treasures out here, I wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor, PicTime. If you've done photography work, you know the presentation is just as important as the photos themselves. The best photos in the world aren't going to leave paying clients feeling happy when they're just airdropped to their phone. PicTime has the presentation down pat. With fully customizable galleries and stores, you'll be able to give your work a complimentary presentation with the perfect font, weight, color, and layout. Not sure what to do? With one click, the AI tool will set you up with a perfectly curated and crafted gallery. Take it even further with 30 plus cinematic covers including video, animation, and multi-image designs. Like everything else, it's highly customizable. When you're ready for happy clients, just follow the link in the description below. Now where were we? Right, back here in the countryside. You could be forgiven for thinking this is an alien and exotic land with strange customs, 5,000 years of history and whatnot. But I've been to a few places on this earth and have found, from first-hand experience, that the Chinese people have more in common with Americans than any other place I've been. They're more like the average American than some of our next-door neighbors. Life revolves around work and family. There's a sense that you don't have to take the hand you've been dealt, and that if you work hard enough, you can make something better. The Chinese may call it eating bitterness, but to the American ear, it probably sounds an awful lot like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And it is. If you've spent time in small American towns, this strange landscape may even start to look familiar. There are ruts from tractors, irrigation ditches, and the daily routine that revolves around planting and harvest. Family matters here, and a reunion calls for a big family meal. There are the home-cooked variety, but today we're heading into town to hit up the Wang family restaurant, a place I've been to a lot over the years. The food is fresh and local. Some of it might look a bit different, but it consists of the same thing you might have at a small-town eatery back home: chicken, pork, and crawfish. They have a tendency to be a bit less wasteful with the parts than we are back home, but all the ingredients, including family, are there for a good country meal. Not far from the Wang family restaurant is Fengyang County, another place that has become very familiar over the years. It's relatively unknown back home, but played a big role in the founding of one of China's greatest dynasties, and Longxing Temple was at the heart of that story. Nearly 700 years ago, the country was overrun by plague and famine. A young man named Zhu Yuanzhang had lost both of his parents as well as an older brother within days of each other. Left with nothing, he and his younger brother begged for a small piece of land to bury his parents. When the landlord refused and kicked them out, a neighbor took compassion on them, giving them a spot of land on a hill. After wrapping their parents in rags, they attempted to bring them up the hill to be buried, but a sudden storm came through, causing a landslide that buried the parents for them. That hill is now the site of the Ming royal tombs, and that young man would later rise up to become the Hongwu Emperor, the founder of the Ming dynasty. After being left destitute, he came here to this temple to become a monk. Later, as events led him on to become the Emperor of China, he had the temple rebuilt and named the Longxing Temple, or Dragon Rising Temple. I don't think it shows in the video, but being here is like walking around inside a pressure cooker. It's hot and unbelievably humid. It's also lunchtime, and the local mall has some air-conditioned food options: noodles and baozi. I miss this stuff when I'm not in China, and it's really not available in most places. I've seen the baozi popping up in the Kroger frozen section, but it's not the same. Now that we've refueled, I'm heading over to something of a ghost that haunts this place, a ghost of what might have been. This is Mingzhongdu, and it was meant to be the capital of China after Zhu Yuanzhang became the Hongwu Emperor. He intended to turn his hometown into the greatest capital in the world, and even made some serious progress in doing so. The official records say that construction was abandoned because it was just too expensive, but that's not exactly what happened. The pace of construction was incredibly demanding, with around 1 million people working on the project. These workers weren't slaves exactly, but they weren't there by choice either. Even the artisans and other skilled workers weren't allowed to quit. They received wages, but the job came by imperial decree, not by choice. The peasants working on the project were there because of a kind of labor tax. Every household in the empire owed the government a set number of days of physical labor. For them, the Ming version of the IRS came knocking, and they couldn't refuse. Apparently, the overseers of the workers were overly sadistic in their efforts to push the project forward, and people started practicing a kind of witchcraft, leaving curses carved into parts of the buildings and foundations. When the emperor came to inspect the project and discovered the way everyone was being treated, as well as the rumors about the witchcraft, he abruptly stopped construction and moved the capital to Nanjing instead. The unfinished project has sat here in Fengyang ever since. Modern excavations have proven that this was a bit more than a rumor. The curses are there, and so are mass burials of workers who didn't survive the project. It's a fascinating place, but the heaviness of everything that happened here still hangs over it to this day. It's been quite a day walking around Mingyongdu, and I've built up quite an appetite. I'm thinking of satisfying that with something that originates back to the days of the Ming who built the place. Hot pot. In Chinese, it's called huoguo and consists of a boiling pot of spicy broth. Into this lava soup, you place different bits of uncooked meat, vegetables, and other tasty bits. Once finished, you get them out and enjoy them. Legend has it that the practice of boiling meats in this way started with Mongol soldiers who would use their helmets as makeshift pots to boil meat in camp. I don't know if that holds up to historical scrutiny, but the version we're having, the more social version, comes from the Ming Dynasty, as we mentioned before. And this is a social kind of meal. There's nothing quite like sitting around a big table with friends and family while tasty bits soak up liquid fire. I'm half kidding, of course, the stuff is delicious. And if you're worried about the spice, there's an option for non-spicy broth. Well, that's the Chinese countryside. There's beauty, history, and good food, even if it's not exactly what you find on the travel brochures back home. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I have over the years. If you've got comments or questions, just leave them down below. I love reading them. See you in the next one.